City Council in November of 2005. He served as Wayne County Commissioner from 2003 to 2005 and stood as chair and served on several county committees. He's the former vice president of the Detroit Board of Education and served on the board from 1992 to 1997. Mr. Kenyatta, what was your first foray into public service?
Well, of course, it was in public services as a community activist. I'm former director of the Malcolm X Community Center, worked with a number of community organizations, Republic of New Africa, New African Peoples Organization, Shrine of the Black Madonna. That's first as it relates to public service, but I always tell the story that it was my mother in Alabama coming home from Birmingham and cooking in the kitchen, and I'm there waiting at the house, waiting for something to eat. And she came home and got to cooking. I didn't know there was anything in the house. And once she fixed up the food, she made a plate and told me to take it down the streets to the woods. And of course, that didn't make me feel good because I was hungry. But from that, I understood that it was about 10 or 15 of them. And on her way home, she stopped by, saw that they did not have anything. And what little we had, she was to share that. And so it taught me that you give even if you don't have much, to those who even have less. And I think that was the first entrance into serving the public and understanding the need to serve the public.
That's something that obviously stuck with you. At that point, was it your goal to help the public, or to help the public help themselves?
Well, at that age, it was my goal to get back home and get something to eat. But I think again, from learning from that, I did a number of other things there in Alabama. But shortly after, I guess around 12, we moved to the city of Detroit and on the east side of Detroit, and then later to the west side, and became involved and saw the Black Panthers organization. A number of organizations. Of course, the Panthers were serving food in the morning time, free breakfast and milk and that kind of thing. And so I became aware of that, Stokely Carmichael and a number of others. So I became what some would call politically active on the street level in terms of the community and social dynamics of changing the condition of our people in the community.
And that was, I guess, your beginnings at the grassroots level.
As a student, yeah.
Did you ever think, or did you ever believe in that, at that point in your life, that you would become involved with the Board of Education, that you would become involved with the county board, the city council?
Because it was not our training to get involved or engaged in electoral politics at all. In fact, we felt that electoral politics was, for the most part, corrupt to the core, and that did not serve the interests of the people. And it wasn't until we were trying to get African-centered schools, and particularly African-centered male academies, and we had a problem in getting that done. So we said, well, look, and the community said, we need someone at that table making decisions for us who think like us and who carry some of our concerns and our ideas and ideologies that is not normally represented from an African-centered perspective. And so there was a lot of discussion, a lot of thought as to getting, quote unquote, inside of the system that we always felt that was counterproductive to our mere existence as a people in this country. And I still have some issues with the political system, but it doesn't mean that, and I've learned that, doesn't mean that you have to be corrupt in order to navigate in a system that may be corrupt itself.
You had mentioned earlier some of the organizations that had influenced you, Stokely Carmichael, who was head of SNCC at one point, and the Black Panther organization, who a lot of people tended to associate with being a militant organization, but they did do a lot of positive things in terms of serving breakfast at schools and things like that. Yeah. That gets you into the education mode, the Board of Education leanings? Did that send you in that direction?
Well, to some extent. Again, the educational system in this country, even to this day, is not designed to educate particularly children. I don't think it's designed to educate anyone. Definitely not designed to educate children of African descent. It pretty much train you to maintain the status quo of the political, economic, and social system that created it, in this case, a capitalist, Eurocentric system. And so in making the decision to get in there, and particularly particularly in a city like Detroit, which is predominantly made up of people of African descent, became a question of how do we get this educational system to do what it was not designed to do, and that is to educate our children. And so in entering that, we looked at African-centered education as the model for centering the information around the student, that the student take ownership, so that the young brother in the street began to see himself in the books, not through Columbus' eyes, but through Toussaint Louverture's eyes, through Jacques Dessalines' eyes, through Mary Cloud Bethune's eyes, begin to see themselves looking at the pyramids in Kemet and seeing yourself on the wall, as opposed to always in shackles and chains, and not seeing the contributions that Garrett Morgan made or someone else. So we began to look at how do we bring this to the table? How do we take these books, the world history book that starts with Africa at the end of the book, as opposed to the beginning of the book where history began. So that was the challenge in order to do that. And I think to some degree we met with book companies. We held up, I think my first business on the Board of Education is to hold a contract worth $25 million of books that were worthless as it related to teaching our children anything here in the city of Detroit. It didn't meet the core curriculum, and it definitely didn't meet the children at the classroom door.
In your biography, it says that when you worked with the Board of Education, you helped lay the foundation for new and progressive learning styles in the school system. Can you address a couple of those?
Well, that was it. The African-Centered Education model was one of them. Even taking that concept allows one to see multiculturalism in a global view. Multiculturalism from a Eurocentric point of view means white first and last. Multiculturalism from an African-centered point of view, meaning taking everyone at their center. And it was to that degree that led me to help found the Medicine Bear Academy, which was the first and now the only African, it doesn't even exist anymore. They phased it out, was the Native American school here in the city of Detroit that was out at Fort Wayne. But because I was comfortable and we were comfortable with our African-centeredness, it would allow us to sit down with Hispanics, allow us to sit down with Native Americans and anyone else of any other culture and see them at their center. See, we talk about diversity, but we don't want you to be diverse. We don't want you to practice your culture. We want you to practice the culture of the mainstream society, which happened to be a society that imposed this culture on others. So by doing that, you then say to these young people who don't see any accomplishments, they don't see us working the cash register in terms of ownership. They see us working the cash register in terms of service, and we have become a service population, even though we're the 9th largest economy in the world in terms of black people. Then how does that relate to our children seeing themselves as CEOs as opposed to just a street sweeper?
Thank you very much. Thank you for that information. We're talking with Council Member Kwame Kenyatta. What have you found the responsibilities of a council member to be? What are they?
Quite a bit. On my way here, I was trying to make sure that some garbage got picked up on Tracy Street, and at the same time dealing with a number of other issues. Our office take in a number of calls on a daily basis, anything from the lights being out. Now, our charter mandated responsibility is to make laws for the city of Detroit, to deal with any of the spending as it relates to the budget, the buying and selling of property and things of those nature. What we find ourselves doing is running, I won't say interference, but the mayor may call it interference, but trying to help resolve issues between the departments, the administration, say if it's DPW or the police department, the water department, and various other departments. If the services are not getting to the people like it is supposed to, then they're going to call their city councilmen. They're going to call their city council women. There are more of them than there are us, city council person. And of course, the mayor's office in the department. We got 311, which is where they really should call to register that complaint with the 311 call center. Then they are supposed to trace that, track it to the various departments, make sure that it is resolved. Oftentimes that doesn't happen. What we do is try to make sure that they've gone through the proper process. We either send it through 311 or through the ombudsman office, or we try to resolve it in our office ourselves, and then ultimately we may take it to the table and let it be known to the various departments and to the mayor's office that this issue has not been resolved and we need it brought back to the table with a resolution.
Since joining the council, what has a typical day what has a typical day been like for you, if there is a such thing as a typical day?
No, it's not a typical day because every day is different. In terms of how it starts, that's pretty standard. We began at 9:45 in the morning with the council session. Those sessions could go to 2 or 3 depending on what's on the agenda, whether they're hearings or discussion, or they could end somewhere around 11 or 12. However, that's not the end of the day. When we come back to our office, staff is lined up with the necessity for direction or resolution that they have not been able to get on a particular issue. We got to try to resolve that, make those calls ourselves. Meetings with the various different departments or community organizations or individual developers or whomever have not been able to get their project to the table. They're lined up with various appointments in the day. So because folks don't see us at that table at the end of the day has not ended. There are also community meetings out in the community as well. So sometimes I'm in the office like tonight. I will probably be there until 7 or 8 o'clock, and then sometimes on Saturday and Sunday. So it's not a typical day.
This is not your 40-hour work week, 5-day, Monday through Friday,
No.
banker's hours, as they like to say.
Not really.
Now, you've got to deal with all that, plus a number of phone calls, personal appearances, requests, and complaints. How many of those do you think you get in a day, a month, a year?
I don't know. I have my chief of staff up here for that. We do clock in the calls. We do, get them down so we know. We do follow up, and then I also have community representatives that go out to the various community organizations, and then they bring the meetings, and then they bring that information back, and we have to do follow up on that as well, and then go. So it's quite a few. It's quite a few during the course of a day.
And I've also noticed too, sometimes with what I do in terms of television, we can kind of do our job one-sided. It's information or entertainment, and we put it out to the public, and we're okay. You have to be sometimes on the front line where you're not only putting information out, you're getting information back, and that feedback isn't always favorable. Sometimes you can go to a town meeting that's maybe a little hostile. Sure. How do you deal with that?
Or they can bring the town meeting to your house, as has happened as well. First of all, I understand that I do what I do because I believe in my community, I believe in the city, I believe in my ability to function with integrity and a commitment to get the job done. So yes, there are things that bother you, but no one pushed me into this job. Nobody demanded that I run for office and get in the job. I asked people to vote for me, and they did. Over 100,000 of them did. And so I'm in that job to take it to the max, and my staff as well. And without them, I couldn't do the work that I do. So we serve the public, and we make sure to the best of our ability that we take those issues and we try to get them resolved. But there are some, whenever there's a controversial issue, whether it's the zoo, whether it's the water board, whether it's the Rackham Golf Course, whether it's River Rouge, or Rouge Park. Now, one thing that's important is a lot of times those issues get blown up in the media because it's an item of concern for the administration, meaning the executive branch. For instance, Rouge Park. There were a lot of concerns about the selling of Rouge Park. That proposal never made it to council's table, even though there were picket signs and yard signs and all types of calls. The mayor floated that idea out there, may have even taken bids on it, but nothing happens until it is brought to the council table. Council has approved or disapproved that, and then sent it back to the mayor. That particular proposal never got to the council's table. So oftentimes people call the council because we are their direct representatives, and they think when you say the city, then that means city council. Well, oftentimes that means the administration has have an idea, and they want to see how that idea is going to float in the public. So they will drop it to the media, and then the media run with it. The city has decided to do thus and so. Well, if you don't see it on Channel 10 and you don't see that discussion at the council table, then the city has not decided to do anything.
That's interesting, because that means you guys had to basically sit patiently while all this worked its way through the media.
Exactly.
And speaking of patience as one of the characteristics, what types of traits and characteristics do you have to be a city council member?
Well, and I don't know if you can lock it down. You clearly have to have patience, and I'm not sure if I'm a patient individual, but you have to have patience. You have to be cool, calm, and collective, and I work on all of that on a daily basis because I can get very hot. I come from the battlefield in the streets, and I know how to fight that battle in the streets. It's a different kind of fight at the council table, and oftentimes it doesn't need to be a fight in the sense of a physical fight or anything like that, but an intellectual fight and a diplomatic fight in order to know what you need to do to get your item approved by 8 other council members, preferably 8 other council members, but at least 5 others, so that you can move that forward. It takes being committed. It takes being knowledgeable. You got to read quite a bit. There's a lot of reading to be done. And so you have to be aware of the issues, who the players are, know that when people come knocking or calling, usually it's because they have something on their mind or there's something on the agenda that they want you to take a look at. So you have to be multifaceted in that sense.
Thank you very much. We're talking with Detroit City Council member Kwame Kenyatta. We'll be right back to talk with Mr. Kenyatta just a little bit more right after member for the last 2 segments or so. Mr. Kenyatta, what do you feel has been the most important lesson you've learned so far as being a city council member?
Look, listen, and learn. Just kind of survey the lay of the land, know where things are coming from. I'm usually somewhat quiet on city council, not that I'm a quiet person, but I'm somewhat quiet unless I have something to say, and I kind of take in all of the discussion so that when I do enter into that discussion is based upon a summary of everything that I've heard. And I think that is important. And also, I think the major lesson that I've learned is that when it's over, it's over. Tomorrow is a new day. You know, you may argue a point and over a particular contract or a proposal, but you can't take it personal. People are going to fight for issues that they are concerned with, but when it's over, we have to come right back to that table, and sometimes you're going to be all 9 members on an issue, or maybe there have been times when I've been the only member on an issue. But it's not personal. You deal with that and you move on to the next issue.
And like you say, sometimes you guys are bound to agree and sometimes you're bound to disagree.
Exactly.
So given that, let me ask you a true-false question. City council does not always agree, and it's not supposed to. True or false?
That's true.
Really?
You know, we are the check and balance arm of government. That's what the legislative branch is all about. And you got 9 minds at that table, not 1 mind. 9 minds, and they're independent, but ultimately they're all working or supposed to be working for the best interests of the citizens of Detroit. And if that is the case, we should arrive at a decision that is best for the people in the city of Detroit.
And I have one more question that's come from some of the people in the building. When are we going to have free parking for all city workers?
That's a good question. We have to work on that one.
I just thought I'd throw that one out there. One of the most important things that I did want to talk with you about was the Entertainment Task Force.
Yes.
What is that and what's it about?
Well, we started the Entertainment Task Force a few months ago. It has a limited objective. In fact, it will be coming to a close in November. We'll be making recommendations to the council when we come back off recess in January. And the purpose of the Entertainment Task Force is to kind of investigate, evaluate, and make recommendations as it relates to the entertainment industry here in the city of Detroit. What is it, who is it, and where is it? And then to talk about how can we enhance that or even jumpstart it. For instance, there are no theme parks in the city of Detroit. That's entertainment. Our children go outside of the city of Detroit, outside in many cases the state of Michigan. To my daughter just come back from Cedar Point. You know, horse, but also pockets broke. And so that money should be spent right here in the city of Detroit. There's no place on Belle Isle where you can go and jump on the boat and come down to Shane Park or to Hart Plaza and have dinner and go right back on that boat, or jet skiing or horseback riding, those kind of things. Also looking at entertainment venues where local talent can go and express themselves, whether it's the spoken word, whether it's music, dance, comedy, or whatever the case may be. So we're trying to look at that, and we got people from the old Motown days to new artists, rap artists, all of that is part of this entertainment task force as we begin to look at what the entertainment industry is. Is it just the Fox Theater or the Gem Theater? No, I don't think it is. And so we need to take a look at it, evaluate it, and make some recommendations. One of the things that I hope to come out of this will be an entertainment commission, and a Detroit Entertainment Commission, and that commission will be responsible for movies. The movie industry is a big thing in the city of Detroit. I was watching a movie the other day, and they said, well, we're getting ready to go to Detroit. I said, yeah, they jiving. But then, of course, I saw the Renaissance Center, and I saw the Coleman Young building, that kind of thing. Well, I never knew the movie was even made in Detroit. So those kind of things, we need to let people know that it's actually going on, and so that we can spur tourism. There's no Walk of Fame, Motown Walk of Fame. People think of Motown, they come to Detroit, they go on the boulevard, they get back on the bus and they leave. Well, there need to be some place where you can see the Motown Review in the city of Detroit. There need to be somewhere where you can go and see Stevie's footprint or handprint maybe on the Riverwalk. As you walk in that Riverwalk, maybe there's a Walk of Fame there, and we're going to talk to them, the Riverfront Conservancy, about a Motown Walk of Fame, where people can come to Detroit and see Detroit's history and see it living. There's no way you should walk in this city and not hear even a Smokey Robinson sound-alike in the city of Detroit, but they have it elsewhere. So that's the kind of thing that the Entertainment Task Force has been looking at. More playtime, airtime for local artists on the various radio stations. We want to see that in more venues.
As a matter of fact, when I first heard of the Entertainment Task Force, I pictured more musical shows and movies and things like that. But I find you also are dealing with things like aquariums, miniature golf, museums, art galleries, sporting facilities, go-kart racetracks, historic sites. You want to know right now what the people are interested in.
Exactly. We want to know if that's something that people are interested in. Where do they go for those kind of activities now? Would they love to have those kind of activities here in the city of Detroit? And we pretty much know that they would. And so now the question becomes, how do we bring those activities to the city of Detroit? How do we get with those companies and say, look, we need a theme park in the city of Detroit. Go-kart racing, maybe out on Belle Isle or something of that nature. Maybe a Detroit Motown cruise. Now, you got the Dream Cruise, but it stops at 8 Mile. A lot of things stops at 8 Mile. But in any case, we need to bring it on down to the riverfront.
You seem to be looking at a lot of things that are Detroit born and bred, and how we can exemplify that a little bit more and magnify it a little bit more to the world. The Entertainment Task Force, one of the, it is an ongoing venture,
Well,
as you mentioned.
my idea, I don't believe in just having stuff just to have it to showboat. This entertainment task force will come to an end in November. We're going to make recommendations in January, and as I said, one of those recommendations will be for the Detroit Entertainment Commission, whereby members for that commission will be appointed by City Council and the mayor. Will be made up of community and experts in the entertainment industry, and they will take the recommendations from the entertainment task force and take it to the next level.
Okay. Thank you very much.